Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. Um, I'm just here today as Kaya's out doing her thing at the moment. But today, I'm just going to get cracking on with it. We've got a nice sort of short one about GitHub Actions. Um, so if you've got any questions about GitHub Actions as I'm going through this, drop me a line in either the chat on YouTube and Twitch. Um, or any of the other places you can get me. So Twitter and that kind of stuff. Just drop me a link and I will answer the questions. Let me just share my screen a second, and we'll just start with what the heck is GitHub Actions reusable workflow? And here's an example of my terrible screen. But we'll stop that a second because we need to do this. We'll start with GitHub Actions first of all. So what is GitHub Actions? Well, GitHub Actions allow you to do CI/CD, so that's some continuous integration and continuous deployment using GitHub itself. So when you do a code check-in, you can run your checks that way. So you haven't got to use an external service like, let's say, Travis CI or Circle CI and that kind of stuff, and you can just run it directly within GitHub Actions, and you can bring your own hosted runners as well. So if you've got some security requirements, or you want to, let's say, have some secrets you don't want to add to GitHub, but you want to have your internal runners, your private runners run those kind of things, you can host your own runners. So that's great. So we've got these GitHub Actions that then go off and run some code and perform, say, integration tests or unit tests of some sort, or maybe CI tests. Sorry, CI tests, UI tests. I will be using that. I'm getting very confused with all my eyes today. That's fine. So let's just jump in and let's see what a current workflow looks like. And let's have a quick look at our lint unit from one of my other cookbooks, and let's make it a ton bigger than that because no one needs to see this. Actually, that's sneak peek. That's what this is. All right, come here. There we go. Lovely. So here's an existing workflow. So I've got a job which runs on every time we run a pull request or we push to the main branch. So push branches main. This is an array here, so we can have a number of branches that we can have like develop, main, master, that kind of stuff. We can do this stuff here. So this is what triggers the workflow, and you'll notice the triggers change when we use reusable workflows. And then we've got a number of jobs. So this is where we define all of our magic. And hopefully it'll become less magic by the end of this post, basically. So we have a job, and then we name the job. Doesn't really matter what we name it. In this case, we're going to call it delivery because we're using Chef Delivery underneath the hood. And this runs on Ubuntu latest. You can run it on Windows and the macOS runners. I think there might be a macOS in here somewhere. Yeah, you can run this on macOS as well. And then we've got steps. So it runs on, and then these are the steps you're going to take to run through your code. And as you're running through the code, you're going to say, right, do this action, and if it passes, do the next thing. So we've got delivery and YAML lint, and we're gonna run. And this isn't a reusable workflow. This is an action from a central place. So this is Action Hub, and we're going to run their YAML lint action. So we've got delivery, YAML lint, and markdown lint, and then we require markdown lint, YAML lint, and delivery. Now, if you've got a lot of repositories that do the same thing, so we're running some sous chefs. They've got about 170 cookbooks, and they do the same thing across the whole lot. They're like, right, well, we've got how many lines of YAML is that? That's what, 11 to 35. That's 24 lines of YAML that all look the same across 170 cookbooks. This could be 100 lines long. Do all these similar steps. And wouldn't it be nice if, as well, it's just a template section. Like most of the time, we do YAML lint, we do markdown lint. We also do delivery. We do the same thing, flipping everywhere. So how do we draw that code up? So do not repeat yourself. This is where GitHub Actions reusable workflows comes in. I'll drop this link into the chat. This blog post kind of summarizes what I'm about to say with the stream, really. But you'll see here we've got on jobs and it does a bunch of things. In this case, we do Docker, and sort of lastly, we then say, right, we've got we can package all of this YAML up into a reusable workflow, and then call it much like we would call a normal action. So run down the bottom here. If I can scroll down, we see steps uses actions checkout. So that's a go to github.com/actions/checkout and use that published GitHub action. Now, if we want to use a reusable workflow, we can do the same thing, really. So it's kind of very similar but very different. So instead of actions, we would use our own org. So in my case here, we're using suchefs, so it uses suchefs / and whatever the reusable workflow name is. And then you can version it. So at v1, it's just a Docker. It's just a version tag for the repository, and I'll show you how to do that later. And then we've again got some inputs. So normal workflow runs can have inputs, and reusable actions also have inputs. So you can have with registry name and registry password there. What we can't do is use the env. So if you're using environment variables, I don't know at the moment how to use to pass like a set of environment variables through to reusable actions. If someone knows how to do that, let me know, and we could update this guide, which is pretty cool. But you can say, right, the registry password and the registry username, we'll pass those into the published Docker reusable workflow, and that will get done that way. So let's just close that off, and there's also some documentation here. I'll link that down there, and we may or may not. This is the workflow I want to reuse. So first of all, I'm going to put it into a central location. So in this case, it's github.com/ I can't type today, com / chefs /.github. So the .github directory is a kind of a special directory in GitHub, and it's also a special repository in GitHub. So you can have like if you've got your let's say your profile, your README and about us. Well, that information gets pulled from this repository here. So under profile README, just that's where that's getting called. What it's not usually is a place to template out your workflows, but we've kind of commandeered this area to have a reusable workflow. And you'll see here that I've got a set of jobs again, and I'll come back over to this workflow cool stuff in a second. It's got jobs, RSpec, and then we've got cookstyle, and then we've got YAML, linting, markdown lint. So you notice that at least two of those steps are the same. We had to change some of this because actually delivery was going away. So one of those steps that was going away, where is it? I can't find it. Where are you? So this, where are you? Chef delivery was going away. So this delivery did a bunch of things for us. That's going away. So instead of doing that, we kind of wrote that 2 lines from scratch, really. So rather than using an action, GitHub action, we used a reusable workflow there. So we do a checkout. Like every time we use an action anyway, we use checkout to get our code onto the box. Then we do install chef because we want all the chef gems on the box. Then we optionally install a second set of gems. Let's say if we're installing, if we're testing HashiCorp Vault, we'll want the HashiCorp Vault Ruby gem. Then we run inspec, which is just a simple chef exec. So that there means for us, we make sure we're using the RSpec executable from Chef. And then we output to results, RSpec results JSON. That's kind of important for this here, which is where we sort of the RSpec report is pushed out to the user. So if it fails, then we can do this. So we wouldn't have bothered to do half of this stuff if we were not using reusable workflows, and we would have to copy and paste. This is like, how many is this? 14 to 32. Oh yeah, it's almost 20 lines of code again. Now, I probably wouldn't have bothered to do that if I wasn't using reusable workflows. I probably wouldn't have done the RSpec report, because who even bothers with that? We would have seen an error red message, and that's fine. But as a result of like not needing to repeat ourselves everywhere at least 170 times, whatever the hell it is now. What the heck it is, sorry. What we can do instead is we'll say, well, we're doing this once, we're going to do this properly, which is really nice. So our RSpec results go there, and that's looks like a pretty normal job there, I gotta say. However, what is not normal is we've got inputs.gems. Now, on a workflow corpse, this is a special trigger for workflows. So if you're calling this workflow as a reusable workflow, so i.e. from another place, could be in the same repository, could be in somewhere else. In this case, it's somewhere else. We can allow inputs. So we can have a list of gems. In this case, just a comma separated list of Ruby gems, and then we can just install that. So if it's not blank, we'll install the gem. We wouldn't be able to do that with a non-reusable workflow. We probably would have just hard coded the gem in there. In fact, I know we hard coded the gem in there at certain places. Like, please just install the gem, and that means that this reusable workflow is reusable, but also flexible enough that we can optionally install gems, which is quite nice with the inputs there. This is all in documentation, so if I'm going way too fast for you, just stop me. So that's cool there. Again, cookstyle, YAML lints, like all of this looks pretty standard. So check out code, do run the YAML lint action, do a checkout, and then again YAML lint action. So that's our reusable workflow. So we've got on workflow call with some optional inputs there. What I was going to show you earlier on was the tagging. So how do you get at v2, at v3? There's just git tags. So we've got a number of git tags here. So sometimes we want to call version 003 or 006, depending on which workflow flavor we want to go and do that. So I've got a tag at 003 that we mostly use here without the gems, because apparently I can't sort the inputs out correctly. So that's fine. Okay, so then we've got this. So that's the final product, which is quite nice. Get rid of that one. This is the original one. So we've got delivery, YAML lint, markdown lint, which then had to be expanded because we lost one of those steps to RSpec. So run RSpec and then also run cookstyle, which is just run a Ruby gem basically. So they have these two extra steps here. So actually, rather than having to write 20 lines of code everywhere, we'd have had to write, 10 to 60. So 40 lines of code, 50 lines of code. Can't count today. 50 lines of YAML. And no one needs to go and do that. So instead, those 50 lines of code YAML get condensed into just, hey, can you just call this reusable workflow? So we go use, and then we just basically do the full path to that workflow. So lint unit YAML, and that give us that full-on workflow there. And then at 003 gives us our git tag. Normally, you don't need these permissions. So GitHub Actions, if you're running your own code in your own YAML in your own workflow, so like this here, all of this here gets run in our own context. We know we've got permissions. We know we're not going to do anything silly. Well, we could still be doing something silly, but we know what we're doing. We know what the silly thing that we're doing. GitHub say, right, well, you're using a reusable workflow from another repository, possibly. So, and you don't possibly, well, there's a scenario where you don't control the code that's in that reusable workflow. So what we're going to say is we're going to run the workflow with the smallest amount of permissions we can, which means that we can't write to actions, which just means we can't write to the checks back. We can't write the checks results. We can't write to pull requests or statuses or issues, which means you don't get like those pretty messages back. You can't, if the bot writes to makes a comment, you can't do any of that stuff. So with this combination here, that RSpec action that I showed you earlier on can then re-output back to any failures, then get like sort of consumed by the RSpec report action and then pushed out to a comment on the thing. And then if it then succeeds, it then reruns, deletes the comment, and then we're all good to go. It's quite nice. But that doesn't work unless you've got permissions there. So we've got a combination of this is a use and then the permissions here. You'll notice that we don't need have any needs, runs-ons, strategy, that kind of stuff. We haven't got any of this stuff that you would normally see from a GitHub action. So let me quickly scroll to the bottom here. You'll see final runs on Ubuntu latest, needs 2 sections, and then steps runs. So we don't have any of that stuff. We get rid of the runs on, the needs, the steps. We can still run needs because that's what chains our actions together. But we don't because it's the first thing we run. So we go jobs, lint unit, users, and then the set permissions. You might not need this all the time, so you can probably just get rid of that. And then so that 20 lines of YAML is sort of being reduced to 2. And it's like, hey, here's the workflow run. Just paste the YAML, like the full path to the YAML, which is quite nice. And then you can just get rid of github.com / and then you've got your repo, your organization repo, folder, and then actually finally the file, which is cool. There are other ways of doing this, and it's the way I quite like doing it. It's really succinct, and it's actually also as a result easy to just go github.com / ooh, where are we? Oh, you spoke too soon. Oh, dear me. Dot. He spoke too soon. GitHub. Oh, right. There we go. GitHub and then GitHub workflows. What did I paste in? Oh, it's because I was tree main certified. GitHub.com / there we go. GitHub.com, yeah. So I was missing which branch we're on basically. So the tree main was missing, or blob main. Okay, blob works too. And that's where the workflow run is. So it's quite a nice way of saying, right, well, this is the thing we're calling. Here's where to find it. It's super easy to find. So as a result, we've got, you can say you basically got 2 lines of things that actually do any work there. And the workflow before, now we've grouped all of that workflow together, and we've just called it lint unit. So we're linting and unit testing in one step. The integration step now doesn't require or need. So it's this section here. It would require, what is it, cookstyle, RSpec, markdown lint, and YAML lint. It would be a sort of array of 4 items there. We can just put lint unit in there now. So we just require the reusable workflow to finish. So again, a little bit of a smaller amount of things. It's like, here's 1 unit to complete, and then secondly, I need this unit to be done, basically. Because as a result of you always running the same thing everywhere, you could just say, right, well, we'll do that. We'll just require the whole lot to finish, and that makes a nice set of steps there. I think that pretty much covers it because it's quite a nice and simple sort of workflow. There's any questions by anybody out there? I see we've got a few viewers in today, which is quite nice. Let's just unshare that a second. Got anything else I want to show? So anything else interesting? Yeah. Yeah, got one of the back channels here. Got no questions from them as well, so that's cool. Thanks very much for letting us know. Do I have anything else to show people? Oh, I couldn't actually show the workflow running. That'd be helpful. Just open the Java repo again. Let's see when the pull requests. So this is the linting unit test, and we've got. I think that's right. No. Let's see one of our closed pull requests. There we go. Okay, so I've got lint unit, RSpec, cookstyle, YAML lint, and markdown lint all working together there. So this is quite a nice way of visualizing how the workflows depend on each other. So there's a final step that if any of them run and sort of kind of bypass, it sort of sits at the very end of the workflow saying, right, I want everyone to have completed. Then we've got an integration matrix here and then an integration macros. They are two separate things because the way the workflows run, but as a result, they can run in parallel, which is quite nice. As can this matrix job here of like, I mean, it's a bit big. We do some parallel testing. Oh, that's. I mean, it's just nasty. So let's go back to the top. Oh, it's not breedable. Then we've got unit, RSpec, cookstyle, YAML lint, and that kind of stuff. So as a result of like all of this, TLDR is reusable workflows, a really nice way of drawing up your GitHub YAML and your workflows, which is cool. And I'm going to say if you've got no questions, let's just check the Twitters. Don't think we've got any questions. Okay. No, we don't have any questions. Only tidbit, the only interesting tidbit I can probably share from a experience of using them is one, they're a bit tricky to test. So one of the nice things you can do is have a reusable workflow, and you can test your reusable workflow in the repository you're currently writing. So let's say I was writing in the Java repository. I can beta test, as it were, writing the reusable workflows as a separate workflow in the same repository. That's a nice way of saying, right, well, I'm not going to release 15 different versions of this thing I'm trying to write in a different repository. So you haven't got to like push commits, and then push commits to the other thing. Instead, what you can do is you can just push a commit to the single repository. There's say Java in this case, and test your workflow out as you're consuming it. So you're consuming workflow and your reusable workflow live in the same place. Hopefully that makes sense. That's quite nice. So you can work with it in a local way that way. It's quite nice. Environment variables are currently hard to put in. I don't know what the answer is to that. But if you use it, if you're passing environment variables into your workflows with env colon and then a map of environment variables, that doesn't work at the moment. I'd love to know why that's could have sort of been removed. Probably a security concern. Knowing GitHub, they're pretty good with that. Yeah, have a quick look. Don't think so. Cool. But with that little tidbit, I think we're good to go. Cool. Thanks very much for joining me today. All right. Have a nice